Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Marvel Legends Lady Deathstrike, part of the Zemnu Build-A-Figure wave. Just because this is the first figure from this wave that I'm reviewing, does anybody care about Zemnu? Just a actual question, genuine question, curious. If you're interested in Zemnu, leave it in the comment section below. Very curious about that. But I know you're interested in Lady Deathstrike because you clicked on this review, and that's what the figure is. And I know most of you are. Most of you X-Men fans have wanted a new Lady Deathstrike for a very long time. The first release is old as heck. It's very, very old. Wasn't very good. It was okay for the time, didn't age well. Not even going to compare it to this figure because I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this one blows that one away. But you might still want to know about this figure, so we're going to review it. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. And this figure stands just over 6 inches, like 6 1/8. That's going to make it just about, let's say, 15.5 centimeters. Pretty good size, I think, for a female figure from Marvel Legends. Reasonable scale, I like that, that's fine. Before we get into this, though, question of the day. Which of your X-Men villains do you want to see as a new figure? It doesn't have to be one that hasn't had a figure before. For instance, I would really like to see a new Toad, or, well, I guess maybe just Toad. I can't think of any other Brotherhood characters I really need a new one of. So for me, it's Toad. But who would you like to see X-Men villain related? Doesn't have to be like super villain or anything, just somebody who's not a good guy. We get a lot of good guys, we don't get a lot of bad guys. Let me know for the question of the day who you'd like to see get a new figure. Or a figure in the first place. Okay, one other thing before I get into this. My voice might sound a little bit weird. My allergies are just wreaking havoc lately, so if I sound a little funny, that's all it is. No worries, guys. Okay, let's get into this. Aesthetically speaking, there's a lot of new stuff on here. Maybe all of it. There's some nagging thing telling me that these legs have been used again already on someone else. I don't think so. I think the only reason I'm noticing that is they have this weird lump of muscle right above the kneecap, and I think I remember that from something else, but I'm pretty sure everything on here is new. I think so. Maybe not the feet, but I'm pretty sure they are. Like, this is a very new figure, if not completely, so that's always a nice thing. It's nice to see sculpting made or tooling made just for a character, because that means it was purpose built, and it's usually better that way. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this one is better in a lot of ways as a result of that. So I'm very pleased about that. I think you guys will be too. So from the aesthetic standpoint, it has a very nice silhouette. I think that's good. They did a good job with the proportioning. It looks like the character at first glance. Like, there's nothing that stands out as being egregiously bad. I like that. It actually does look like a woman, more or less, and I'm gonna just put this out there, not to be a pervo or anything like that, but we know Hasbro's been doing this thing where they make all of the female characters look like they have zero body shape at all, while it's okay to make the men naked and beefy and everything. Like, being weird about stuff, it seems. This figure is probably the most cleavage you'll ever see on a figure from Hasbro, ever. Maybe put them all together and this one beats it. They actually did justice to the character design, which is a very particular design, so kudos to them, bonus points for that. They did a good job with that. They did a really good job with her, like, cybernetic, whatever you want to call them, on her boobages and on the arms. That's all sculpted and painted, and they did a really clean job. It's very nicely sculpted. Same thing for her weird vest thingy. That's very nicely done. This is such a nostalgic design, not because of the character itself, but just because of the weird, totally impractical suit design. But they did a good job getting it. They did the hands with the big fingers and claws. It's all sculpted well, painted well. It's a good enough likeness, very nicely executed. Whether it's exactly the right likeness or not, I mean, she's looked different here and there, but they did a good job with the sculpt and paint there. Really no complaints all the way around. And one thing I just want to point out, it's a super basic thing, but we don't usually get this, so I'm gonna give them bonus points, well, at least bonus brownie points for doing this. They put the thigh swivel right here in the sculpt. Like, each one of these is sculpted on, obviously, like some corrugation or whatever you want to call that, and that's where the thigh swivel is. They actually lined it up properly, and you would think, yeah, well, why wouldn't they? Well, a lot of companies don't do that kind of stuff, Hasbro included sometimes. Like, you'll see, what is the word for that? Variegated? I don't know. There's a word for that. Anyway, you'll see a figure where this kind of thing is in the design, and then they still just throw a cut in there between the lines or something, and it just throws it off for no reason. So I'm just happy when they do things like that. Like, Yeah, we point out the flaws of figures on this channel because these are reviews and that's what I'm supposed to do, but also the good things. It doesn't take much for a figure to be good. And they did it right. They did it right on this figure, so I'm very happy about that. Now, as far as the painting goes, everything that is painted is clean. I already mentioned her cybernetic boobages and stuff. The lines on her hat, very clean. There's not a whole lot of paint going on, but we do have these things on the arms right there. That's good. Her little diaper is pretty clean. That's about it. Not a ton, but what's there is good, so I'm happy. Like, yeah, they could have done more, like a little bit of shading on this brown plastic. Even if it's just a wash or something, would have been really nice. It would have brought it to life. Whereas right here it looks like plastic, but at least the sculpt is there. Same thing for her sleeves, but again, it's there, so it's fine. So I'm gonna give this figure an 8 out of 10 for the aesthetic. They did a really good job in a lot of ways, but yes, it still does look quite plasticky in the brown. Not so much in the white, because there's not a lot you can do with white anyway, but this brown does look pretty plasticky, so I'm just gonna pull it back a little bit. But all in all, they did a good job. I wanna mention real quick before we move on, the legs have the right proportioning. The thighs are slightly longer than the calves. They're a little bit thicker. We don't have this beanpole physique that we've been getting on most figures lately, so I'm glad that they did that. Very good. Okay, so now as far as accessories, 0. We don't get any accessories, so that's a bummer. And now it's time for the articulation. The head is on your average Marvel Legends hinge and ball peg, and the hair is such that you should be able to pose her head just fine. She can look all the way up, she can look all the way down. You do get a little bit of a lollipop syndrome where you can see that peg in there and the head's kind of floating above the neck, but it's not too high. It's just that there's a big gap because the neck doesn't go all the way up to the base of the skull. So it's not going to really be a problem for anybody. It just doesn't need to be there, and unless you're like trying to get her to look off into the distance or something and then shoot like a photo from the side, you're not going to really see the gap. So I think that's okay, and then the hair is soft enough that it won't get in the way, so that's fine. For the shoulders, better than horizontal. That's pretty good. You're not going to obviously be able to rotate them all the way around, but this is somewhat flexible, so with a little bit of fudging you can get the poses done that you need to. It'll work. It'll be okay. One thing I'm very pleased about is they didn't need to do this, but they did give us a bicep swivel right there at that armband, and that's perfectly well hidden, which is very nice. But the reason I say they didn't need to is with a single jointed elbow like this, you get a swivel in the elbow. And they could have said that's enough, we don't need to do anymore, and it probably would have been acceptable, but giving us that extra bicep swivel in there does afford us better posability in the arm, especially around this weird vest thingy. So very much appreciate that. That's pretty cool. Just about 90 degrees in the elbow though, and you do, like I said, get your rotation. For the arms, or for the forearms, we just get our wrist swivel. One hand has the vertical hinge, which at first I was thinking is kind of useless for a hand like this, because you would think with like your claws out, you're gonna want to have the wrist be like posable for using the claws. But with a hand like this, you could pose her like holding somebody up by their neck or something like that, like around the neck. So yeah, that still serves some utility, or has some utility, serves some purpose, so that's okay. For the torso, we just have a ball peg in the bottom, which it doesn't afford a great amount of range, but it'll do. It'll be okay. I think they could have probably worked that in a little bit better. You get some side to side, some forward and back, and of course your rotation. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Maybe it could have been a little better, but it'll do. I don't think they could have done much as far as adding mid-torso articulation because of this vest. It would have been pretty tricky without it costing too much or being made out of different materials. So I think that's perfectly acceptable. Now for the hips, let's see what kind of range we get. Out to the side, better than 45. That should be more than enough. And then going forward, they do kick out to the side just a bit due to her crotch design, but that should be fine. Rotate the thigh in just a little bit and you get pretty good kick forward. Going back, you don't really get anything, that's fine. Thigh swivel is there, like I said, nicely hidden. Double jointed knee works nicely. I will continue to point out that there's a weird lump of muscle right there. At the top of the knee, there's a lump. Can you guys see that lump? Is the light catching it just right? It's like a second kneecap or something. There's some kind of tumory mass at the top of the knee. Not sure what that is. Somebody tried to explain to me what muscle group that is one time, and it's just not a thing. So there are muscles there, don't get me wrong, but there's not just one beanie lump right there. Anyway, knees work fine, and then the ankles do go all the way back, and with a little bit of force, decent range forward. If we can focus, that'd be great. Yeah, that's fine. And then for the ankle rocker, it's not perfect. It's at a kind of steep angle, but it'll do, so that's okay. So articulation on this figure is at worst satisfactory. At best, it works pretty well in some places. I think it suits the figure just fine, suits the character just fine. For the price point, I'm happy. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. There's a couple issues that could be improved upon, but yeah, I mean, for a Marvel Legends figure, this is what you should expect, like, for everything all the time. You don't need a new sculpt every time, don't get me wrong, but you need to have a certain level of, it feels like effort was put into this. It feels like care was put into this. The parts that are new actually are purpose-built and work well. It's not just like new parts that don't work well for some strange reason, which we've seen plenty. You would think that wouldn't be the case, but it has been, and this one is not that. This one is like exactly what it should be with a reasonable set of expectations. So final verdict for this sorely needed replacement for an old figure is gonna be, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. For Marvel Legends, this is a 9 out of 10. This is the kind of figure we should be expecting to get in the comic line all the time. Shouldn't be just the movie or TV show figures that get the new sculpts all the time. And I know there's different budget constraints, I get it, but also I don't care because we're paying for these things that we don't need, and in order for us to want them, they should have some level of standard, let's see if I can word that better, some level of expectation. I can't word it better. I haven't been sleeping and I'm on so many allergy medications. You get what I'm saying, I hope. If not, I guess watch more of my reviews and you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought about the figure in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about the video by giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Either one is fine. If you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.